It's 10 o'clock, so I guess now would be a good time to start and to welcome you all to this, the kickoff, the launch event of our Leadership for Personalised Care online module. Thank you so much for being here today. We've had 1,000 people register for this online learning, and it's great that we've got over 400 people on the call today. The call will be recorded, so some people are intending to watch the recording afterwards. So to introduce myself then, so I'm Catherine Wilton. I'm a Deputy Director in the Personalised Care team at NHS England Improvement and Director of this Personalised Care programme. And I just wanted to, before we start really, welcome everybody and introduce you a little bit to our tutor team today and our presenting team. So we've got some helpers who are all lined up to make sure that this is the best experience possible for you today. So you've heard from me and you've been hearing the voice of my lovely co-host, Christy Adams. We've got some fantastic keynote speakers that you will be hearing from a little bit later. Dame Philippa Russell, John Evans OBE and James Sanderson, Director of Personalised Care. And we've got our wonderful Zoom hosts that you'll see on the picture there, and various other fantastic colleagues who will be monitoring the chat and to try and make this as interactive as we possibly can, given that there's so many of us and it's difficult to have one conversation. So you'll be hearing from some of these people over the course of the day. So we've heard a little bit about where people are from. I wonder, so what's the furthest away we've got, Christy? Were you picking that up in the chat? So we've definitely got Penzance. Have we got anybody right up north on the borders or even into Scotland?
We have got Newcastle, we've got Cumbria. Lindsay, your geography is far better than mine. How far north do we go?
So far, I think Newcastle is the furthest reaching that we've got. But yeah, if anyone is like representing Scotland, please shout up in the chat box.
Yeah, we've definitely got Northumberland and Durham as well, which I think are a bit higher up as well.
Brilliant, and Helena's telling us, Helena Gregory is saying she can see Scotland from here. So she can't see the pub from here, but she can see Scotland from here.
Fair enough. And we've got the lovely Gabrielle here from Collective Leadership for Scotland, who's one of the people helping us today, and also Hannah from Wales. So we've got a bit of a spread. We're going to try and take this as far as we can, really bringing all of you leaders on the call now and others and those in your networks, really trying to build our network of leaders in personalised care. Christy, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Catherine. So just to say, if you are popping tech issues in the chat, don't worry, one of our lovely team will be here to support you. So Catherine's just talked about who's here on the call today. There are lots of us actually that have been involved in the creation and development of this programme. So some of these lovely people on the screen are here today, but some of them aren't. So either way, it's a massive hello from all of these people that have got us to where we are today. Thank you, Simon. The next slide. And just to highlight to you that this is a team effort, and this project around personalisation, if we can call it a project, I think it's far bigger than that, has been going on for about 8 years. So many of us have been involved in it for that amount of time. Lots of these, as you can see, these partners here. Just a particular mention to In Control, because In Control are actually a lead partner and kind of co-hosting this webinar and this programme with us. So hello In Control, that's Julie, who you've already heard from. Okay, and Gainers behind the scenes from In Control as well. So this is what we're going to be doing together today. So we've done some welcomes, and you've met us, and in this virtual way we've met you, and we'll look a bit more in detail about the programme in a bit. Then we're going to hear from Catherine around an introduction to leadership for personalised care. So what actually is it? And as Catherine says, we are so fortunate to have 3 fabulous keynote speakers today who offer such a range of experience and perspectives. So we've got James Sanderson, who's the Director of Personalised Care at NHS England and Improvement, and James is helping really to to empower people to have greater choice and control over their care, and he'll tell you a bit more about that in a bit. We've got Dame Philippa Russell, and I'm so excited for you that you're going to hear from her. She's a wonderful woman and a leading voice in the field of learning disabilities. She's the former chair of the Standing Commission for Carers, and she's also Vice President of Carers UK. And then we've got the fabulous, very fabulous John Evans, OBE. John is, well, you'll make up your mind about John when you hear from him. He's incredible. He's an activist internationally and an influencer in the field of disability rights, equality and diversity. So a fabulous range of speakers for you there. And then once you've heard from them, you're going to have an opportunity to learn and reflect in some small groups, exploring your own leadership journey. And then we'll come back together and have some final words to kind of reflect on what we've done, what we've learned, and look at what's next on the programme. Next slide, please. Thank you. So it's really important that we agree how we're going to work together today so we can all give our best and get our best. So just a reminder, Catherine told us that we are recording this session, although the group discussions in your breakouts won't be recorded. This is a safe space, and we have a shared responsibility for each other's psychological safety and learning. And I guess what we mean by that is that we want to create an opportunity for all of us to explore new thoughts and ideas without any judgment and assumptions. You know, we are humans and we come with stuff, but we need to try and leave that behind today to open up the space for us all. And obviously this includes respecting confidentiality. We are using the chat for all communications, as you can see. Please don't worry about spelling mistakes because it gives us permission to make them. So type away, we'll make sense of what you say. The chat is being monitored by our team for questions and any support you need. If you have any tech issues, please note it in the chat, and Molly, Lindsay or Rosie will help you. Just to say to you that we have been we found ourselves in this new virtual world, haven't we, over the last year, and we're all learning, we're all in this together. So please do bear with us if we have any tech issues as well. You get out what you put in. It's the same as everything in life, isn't it? So please do get involved in the chat and keep your cameras on in your group discussions. And we've just highlighted for you here that self-awareness is your leadership superpower, and leadership development starts with you. And I guess, again, what we mean by that is please do give yourself permission today to be here and invest the time and the emotional and mental energy that you need so that we can be together, learn together, and you get everything that you need from this session. Stay for the whole session if you can. We are on this journey together, and you will get the full benefits if you protect this time. We're live tweeting, so if any of you are twitters or tweeters, sorry James if I've got that wrong, please have a look in the top right corner. They're our handle and our hashtag, so please do tweet away and do what you very cool people do that I'm absolutely hopeless at. And then at the end, now it's really important if we can all sign up to this, because we need to be in this together. So I'm going to invite you please to give consent to the above in the chat box, and look what's going to happen to the chat box. It's going to go crazy. Thank you, Rosie, you've started us off. So if you can just type in the chat box now, yes or I consent, that would be wonderful. That's so good. That means that we've now contracted to work together in the best possible way. Thank you so much for doing that. Over to you, Catherine.
Thank you, Christy. So just so you get a sense of the whole and what we're hoping to do with you over the course of the next 4 months or so, we've created this online programme with 4 different modules, the themes of which you can see here on this slide. And of course, this is the launch event for the whole programme and the first masterclass of Module 1. The Module 1 being Introduction to Leadership in Personalised Care, and with another event next week, which I hope you'll all be able to join us to. That is actually the European Day for Disabled People, and a number of people on this call I'm sure would have been travelling to Brussels to be part of those celebrations. Bit more difficult to do that in today's context, but we do have an opportunity to come together on the 3rd of December and celebrate that and talk about specifically about co-production and how we lead in co-production on that particular day. Module 2 will be kicking off in January, and in that module we'll be looking at complex adaptive systems, how we spread change through networks, and how an understanding of complexity is absolutely essential for us as leaders in leading transformational change. We'll be moving on in February to be talking about collaborative leadership for personalised care and how collaboration can really help us move forward. We certainly can't change the world on our own, but we can do it with a group of friends and colleagues and other like-minded people if we have shared purpose. And lastly, personalised leadership for well-being, equality and inclusion. So how we can actually use the principles of personalised care and the wider personalisation movement to be leading with care and compassion for ourselves, our teams, our communities in pursuit of inclusion, equality and well-being for all. So that's an overview of the whole programme. We're having 2 live masterclasses per programme, about 90 minutes each. You may not be able to attend them all, but like I said, we will make the recordings available. But there is additional content that we're providing. We'll have an online platform coming soon, and we will be sending you some written materials and follow up from this particular day today. And then thirdly, which is very exciting, we'll be offering you the chance to be part of our action learning sets in leadership for personalised care, which begin in January. Now, places on these are limited, just in terms of the capacity that we have as a tutor team. But we will do our best to accommodate as many people as possible. We'll be sharing details with you about how you apply to be part of those action learning sets, which will in which we will be putting you in a smaller group of maybe 6 to 8 people and actually sharing your learning journey together. So you can participate in these live events, but then have some very, very specific protected space afterwards with a skilled facilitator for you to be able to think about your own leadership and what it all means to you in the context of what you've heard and what you're learning. So it's very exciting, and I hope that hope you'll be interested in signing up for that extra offer. And we're building a community. I hesitate to say movement. I don't think you can create social movements. You can't just decide to have one. But we do have an amazing community of people who've been involved with us with this programme right from the beginning. There was actually a few little hellos to people who were part of our cohort 1 back in 2013 when we started a national leadership for personalised care programme, and that people have come on the programme today or recommended it to their colleagues. So it does feel like what we're doing is about drawing people together and making sure we continue to be on this mission journey together, and growing the capacity and skills of leaders right across the NHS, but way beyond, into thinking about what we do to make a transformational shift and to give people choice and control in their lives. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce James Sanderson, Director of Personalised Care in NHS England and Improvement. James is a fantastic leader in this field and has very kindly agreed to give us a bit of an overview and his perspective on personalised care, and also what the importance of this is for you as leaders in making a change. I'm sure you'll all join me in giving James a warm welcome, and thank you very much. Over to you, James.
Thank you very much, Catherine, and very good morning to everybody. I'm delighted to be speaking to you all this morning at the launch of this really fantastic venture to create new leaders for personalised care. And a big thank you to you all for attending this course. It's really, really important that we continue to grow the momentum and build a new movement for personalised care. I think that the timing has never been better for personalised care to grow and really take hold across the country, because we know now very clearly that personalised care changes lives, and we know that it influences people to enable them to live their best life and create the outcomes and opportunities that they wish for. And I say that very easily, but it takes a huge amount of effort, and actually having you here engaging in wanting to learn more about personalised care and become leaders in the field to really help people transform their lives is just fantastic. So a big thank you for taking this first step and joining us on this journey. I'm delighted today to be speaking against a number of pioneers in the field. And as Catherine and Kirsty have said, having people like John and Philippa, who've inspired me on my personalised care journey, is just incredible, and really looking forward to hearing from them during the course of the session today. Personalised care is actually very simple. It means giving people choice and control over the way their care is planned and delivered, and that choice and control is based firmly on what matters to them, and importantly builds on the assets that they bring to their own care, because we're all experts in ourselves. And actually, in a health and care system that doesn't recognise that expertise, we fail to tap in to the strongest, most powerful asset that we have, which is people themselves. And this journey starts with the thing that I say is the most important technology that we use in healthcare, which is conversation, engaging with people on a level, talking to them about what matters to them, tapping in to their skills, knowledge, to enable them to build a package of support, a care plan, a way in which they're going to support their health and well-being in a way that's most meaningful to them, is incredibly powerful. But actually, we know that for many people, they don't have this benefit. 40% of people say they're still not as involved in their care and support as they would like to be. 40% of people living with a long-term condition say that they lack the skills, knowledge and confidence to look after themselves in the way in which they would want to. And 40% of people say they don't understand the health information that they're provided with by the system. So, we've got a long way to go. But we now have all of the tools that are necessary to fix this. And when we launched Universal Personalised Care a couple of years ago and made personalised care one of the 5 key shifts for the future of the NHS as part of the NHS long-term plan, we committed to a new revolution for personalised care that would enable it to be delivered universally across the health and care system. So that was a bold step forward. And the momentum since then has been growing at a really significant pace. Whether or not that's interest in shared decision-making to enable people to make better, more informed decisions about their care and treatment options, whether it's the growth of personal health budgets, giving people full choice and control over the way in which they plan their care, whether it's social prescribing, connecting people to community-based activities that are most meaningful to them and enable them to transform their lives. Whichever aspect of it relates to personalised care, we're seeing a huge momentum and a huge appetite. Personalised care has always been the right thing to do. And I think everybody's always acknowledged that it's the right thing to do for people. But actually, I think we're now at a point where we recognise that it's necessary to do. It's not just a nice to have. It's the thing that is actually going to transform lives, going to cut through some of the health inequalities that we see, some of the barriers that people face in achieving the health outcomes that they want to. Personalised care, I think, provides the answer for this. And we're seeing, therefore, that no longer is this a nice to have movement, but this is a necessary part of the healthcare system. And we're also seeing significant evidence that not only does it transform individual lives, but it can also have a massive impact on the resources that we use across health and care systems as well. So again, thank you very much for joining us on this really important journey. Personalised care is here to stay. We've got a really great opportunity between us to build a movement. You've taken this step to learn more about how to be part of that, because for a very long time now, personalised care has all been about collaborations, like-minded people working together across boundaries, doing brave things to really help and support individuals. And I'm really grateful that we've got a really fantastic group of people from across the country that are going to help us take this ambition forward. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, James. That was a great introduction to our programme. Can I just check, James, are you able to stay for the question and answer, or do you need to go now? I just wondered if people have questions.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to need to jump off very shortly. So apologies, but I can dip into other sessions. I'm juggling a few things at the moment, as you know.
You've done us a massive favour by coming today. Thank you. But if there are any questions, all I was thinking is it okay for us to pass them to you? We can give people the answers afterwards when we do follow up.
Absolutely, and really happy to come back and do a specific Q&A session if there's time at a later time. Really happy to do that.
Thank you so much for that. That's brilliant. So you heard there from James, really useful and helpful, setting the scene around what we need to be doing around personalised care. And whilst James was talking, we just put up this slide. I mean, this is it's a relatively old study now. It's 10 years ago, and some of you may be familiar with it. Social networks, you know, are absolutely key to people's well-being, and personalised care, whilst it does involve changes to the way care is delivered and some of the technical aspects perhaps of personal health budgets and some of the things we need to put in place, but essentially at its heart it's about connecting people to their communities. The next slide shows why we also need to work with people to co-produce things. So this is actually called the desire line in town planning terms. And the thing is, it doesn't matter how well you've designed it as a professional, whether it's a service or a concept or a strategy, people will live their own life and find their own path. Unless you want to waste loads of money and resources on things that people aren't going to use or aren't going to need, or in fact, you know, do not attend, then it's really important that we actually focus our resources in co-producing, in doing things together with people with lived experience. And so that's why we've actually asked our other two keynote speakers to come with us today to try and bring together what is essentially bringing together some important movements in health and social care. And the reason that we need to do this is because we do need a different type of leadership to take us forward, one that is not just about command and control and leading organisations well, but one that is about working across boundaries, as James says, being brave and looking to put the building of health and well-being and what really matters to people at the front and centre of what we do. So personalised care, you know, it comes from two sort of parallel movements, but with similar sort of roots and with societal changes. So for the health professionals on the call today, some of you may be familiar with the origins of personalised care in medicine, which came from, it has its roots in the humanistic or person-centred psychology of Carl Rogers. So Carl Rogers saw people as unique and whole, and a person-centred approach to care requires listening and a congruence or sense of connection between those giving and receiving support. And then later we hear about the chronic care model, where doctors are actually realising that people who have a sense of control or agency over their own health have better outcomes. So at the same time that in the medical field, people were kind of discovering these things and realising the importance of the multiple factors that impact on people's health and not just health care, there were parallel movements going on amongst people themselves across the globe. Because this isn't just a health movement, this is a movement that sits on the shoulders of people with lived experience. In the 1970s, disabled people felt that the services available to them were paternalistic, too medically orientated and out of touch with their real needs. And in 1980 and 81, a number of key individual disabled people managed to raise funds to travel to Berkeley, California, where the first Centre for Independent Living had been established, to explore alternatives to their current situation. And these people included John Evans, who's one of our keynote speakers today, one of the founders of what he called Project 81, which was a mission to get disabled people like himself out of institutions and into their own homes. It did take John longer than 1981 to achieve his goal, but through determination and force of will, he managed to persuade and cajole the authorities to let him live independently, and eventually became one of the first people in the UK to have a personal budget. We've also got Dame Philippa Russell here with us today. So Philippa has been on her own mission through this time as a parent of a son with learning disabilities. In those days, there was considerable stigma surrounding learning disability, and families were often advised to put their child in a long-stay hospital and get on with their life. But when Philippa's son Simon was born, she fought for his right to an education, a life in the community and a good future. And the tireless campaigning of Philippa and other parents, which included a summons to Number 10 and Tea with Margaret Thatcher, resulted in the Education Act of 1970, which amended earlier legislation and gave all children the right to education. So with others, Philippa and John successfully campaigned to change the law so that everybody has a right to a direct payment for their care and support needs. And as many of you here will know, this month also marks 25 years since the passing of the Disability Discrimination Act, which for the first time made it illegal to discriminate against anyone because of their disability. It had taken 14 attempts to push the legislation through Parliament, but in 1995 they managed it. So we're beyond delighted that they are both here with us today to share with you their stories about leadership, what it takes to make change happen, and what you can do when you really put your mind to it. So I'm sure you'll join with me in giving a very warm welcome to John Evans OBE and Dame Philippa Russell. John and Philippa, I wonder if you'd like to say a few words about the journey you've been on and what you've learned about leadership along the way.
The importance for me is the people that I have worked with, really, because everybody says, you know, I was a pioneer and I did it, but I couldn't have done it without the support of those other people. And right from the beginning, that was the trademark of who we were as people and how we managed. We were a movement. We were a social movement. And to me personally, I was very lucky in finding out about what had happened in the United States and had the opportunity to travel there. And it's quite extraordinary, the inspiration and the momentum you get from those kinds of journeys. If I can give you an example, I asked a disabled woman once about, you know, where can we get the money from to support us? You know, do we need to be ethical about it? In other words, do we need to use charities or not? And she said, look, John, you just get money from wherever you can. You know, that's what's important, you know. And this woman, Judy Heumann, ended up working for the World Bank. And now, well, she was the advisor to President Clinton and Barack Obama on disability issues and education. So those are key issues, key kind of parts of my life that I'll always remember and keep on giving me a kick every time I do things.
I love that, John, because actually when we talk about the barriers to leadership or doing something different, people always say we haven't got any money, but there's a clear lesson there and you just kind of, you can find it from somewhere. You just have to maybe look in a different place. Philippa, would you like to sort of start by just saying, you know, a few words about what you've, you know, your perspective on this leadership in personalised care in the context of your journey?
I think my journey began when I realised that my son Simon had a disability which would have impacts on his life. And I refused to accept the idea that he should conveniently be put into a long-stay mental handicap hospital and my husband and I could get on with our life in the Foreign Office. I believed that Simon had the right to a life, to progression, to achievement. I was ambitious, but I didn't know any other families. And I think I would absolutely endorse John's point that the people you meet on your journey matter. And in my case, it was a wonderful professor of paediatrics, Ronnie McKeith. And he took me aside. I was staying in hospital. I brought my son back from Malawi for his diagnosis. And he said to me, your son has a future. Everything that you give up for him or you are actually taking away his opportunities. He said, we need a new narrative about disabled children and their life chances. And you as a parent must be part of that journey. And I told him I can't. This is not my field. I'm not a leader. I just want my son to have a life. And Ronnie McKeith was a classicist. And we're talking about people and leadership today. And he said to me, I'll tell you a story. He said, have you ever read Hannibal's memoirs? Well, I hadn't read Hannibal's memoirs, but I knew he went over the Alps. He said, right, he said, Hannibal wrote in his memoirs that a good leader collaborated. It was the first time the word collaboration was used in any language in Latin. It appears in his memoirs. He said, when I had to cross the Alps, I looked at my biggest obstacle and I thought I can't. And he said to myself, yes, I can, because a good leader doesn't just lead from the front. He recognizes the leadership potential in the people who are in his team. So he looked back and he asked the men who were bringing the elephants and the equipment over the Alps, how can we get over this obstacle? And the men thought and they turned to him and they said, leader, ask the elephants. And Hannibal said, we ask the elephants, how will we get over the Alps? What will we eat on the way? And the elephants knew, he said. And at that moment, I realized that leadership is about collaboration. And that was the beginning of my journey, because I met up with other parents. Ronnie McKeith gave me a social prescription to MenCap, actually talk about options. And I became part of the campaign to close the long stay hospitals, to get the right to education to my child. I was horrified that he was regarded as ineducable. Had a letter from the London Education Authority, typewriter, red ribbon, saying that I could not present my child at a school. I thought, this is a nonsense. And then as Simon grew, I met and heard about people like John. And I realized that the personalization movement, that disabled people as role models, were the people that I should follow. So my son was one of the first people to have a personal budget, to have his own home. He has significant learning and other disabilities. And we're still on that journey. I feel we're all part of a new narrative. And actually, COVID-19 gives us the opportunity to think about a very different world and do it differently. Thank you.
That's lovely. Thank you so much. A clear message there about kind of working together and collaboration. And also that you didn't see yourself as a leader at the beginning. It just so happened you had to step into that authority. John, did you see yourself as a leader at the beginning? I mean, what's your reflections of what Philippa just said?
Well, I did see myself as a leader because it was kind of an idea that came from me. It was a vision. And I think it's important from a leadership point of view to have a vision. You have to have a way forward. You have to have somewhere to travel to. And, that was quite key. There was a kind of certainty and a belief in myself that, we have to put into context that back in the 1970s, late 1970s, early 1980s, there was nothing. There was no community support. There wasn't any way that somebody like myself who needed 24/7 support could live without the support of a family or had a lot of money to put in to buy in those people to help you, or you had residential care. And simply because my friends that were looking after me after I broke my neck couldn't cope anymore, I ended up going into a residential care. And to me, that was like the worst possible thing. It was really like imprisonment. And I felt right from the start that I was not going to spend the rest of my life in that residential home. And I knew it. I had no idea how I was going to find a way out. But it was remarkable that within a few days of living in that residential home, I met some colleagues and we started talking about it. And we said, yes, let's start something. Let's do it, because this is our way forward. And that was so important. And, that journey from that residential home, somebody once said, John, you went from Lee Court to Strasbourg. I went from a residential home to being a leader of a disability movement and going to Strasbourg and Brussels to campaign and to sort of meet parliamentarians on the way, as well as meeting politicians in this country. But it wasn't easy. It took a lot of detective work. It took a lot of research to be able to kind of get through the maze, as it were, and to try and educate people as we went, because people couldn't believe that somebody like ourselves could possibly live in the community. But, we showed them that we could, and we proved them wrong.
That's brilliant, John. Thank you. I love that. There's a few things in there that you did see yourself as a leader. You had a mission, you had a vision, and that's a clear leadership lesson as well, isn't it? It's kind of and then finding other people to kind of share that vision and mission with and work together. But I also like your what you said there about, you did your homework, you did the detective work. Sometimes it takes graft at the detail end of leadership to be able to make these things happen, to make all the pieces fit together. So are there any other leadership qualities you think that you've noticed you're in yourself or in others on the way, John, that have been key to success other than the ones we've mentioned?
I think there are a number, really. I mean, the important thing is you can't do everything. You have to work together with other people. So there's collaboration needed, and the kind of partnership of working with others and being able to share values. and delegate roles. And, you know, we quickly realized that different people within our group had different talents and different skills. And we had to make sure those people put those into action. And yes, you know, there are a lot of other skills that people have, and you have to make sure you use those as assets. You know, that's asset building, and that's trying to develop, you know, what you have together with others and building a new future. So yes, there are lots and lots of different areas where you can make sure you make things happen.
Thank you. Yeah, sometimes we think, you know, leaders need to have all of the answers, and clearly you're both saying that that's not the case. You need a mix of people, and you also need to ask the elephant. So there could be lots of different types of elephant, I guess. Philippa, do you want to say a little bit about partnership working and also its partner co-production and what the difference is between those things?
I think that partnership working is obviously at the heart of personalisation, and partnership was something that I and my son certainly had to fight for. It wasn't that the professionals and services didn't care, but in Simon's early days, it was a matter of fitting him to services rather than the services thinking creatively, dynamically, what they could actually do differently. And I think now that we really value lived experience, we are actually seeing both the people who need care and support and also those who are commissioning or providing it, having the kinds of conversations, John mentioned conversations earlier, which are absolutely vital to understanding of the issues and the way forward. Because I think sometimes people who are pioneers, and I think John and I were both pioneers in many ways, can actually get caught up in the fight. There isn't much time to have those open, honest conversations for why nots. And when we actually move on to look at collaboration or co-production, in a way we're going one stage further and enabling the people, the citizens, the community, actually work with health, social care and other services, actually design something which is person-focused, which is fair and reasonable, which takes account of the vexed issue of resources. Here, I actually think those of us who are the elephants, which I see myself as actually have the best ideas. We know how to forage, if you like, for the small community project that has the potential to grow. We know that supporting social networks enables people like my son, like today, to be with somebody in the local community and not at a day service. It's about opening doors. But I think that we sometimes get caught up in processes and procedures, and co-production is very much about an ongoing process. It's a journey, and sometimes the navigation gets a bit problematic, but we are all on a learning curve. And I think, for me, co-production is the only way forward. And co-production has to be about personalization, because that's recognizing roles, responsibilities, individual aspirations, but finding a way to mesh them together so that we can go forward. I mentioned COVID-19 earlier, and I won't say any more about it, but we will shortly be into a recovery phase, and it will be a big recovery phase. There won't be enough money for many of our ambitions, but we've learned so much about community that I actually think that we're into an exciting development phase if we allow ourselves to see recovery not as a problem with not enough money, but actually as a way of really personalizing the support that people need to enable them to lead good lives. Not to think about services first, but to think about people. But it's a journey, and I think in my lifetime as a family carer, we've made huge progress.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. I wonder if we should move on to question and answers now. I mean, we've heard some fantastic inspiration, and the chat box is going mad, Philippa and John, with people who've been really inspired by what they've heard. But maybe go over to the chat monitors now. So, Lindsay, could I come to you first? No, put your questions in the chat, And then what chat monitors will do, well, they will kind of like pick out some themes, and we can ask these to John and Philippa live. While we're just waiting for people to put specific questions in there, John and Philippa, I just wanted to pick up on that importance of community point. There was an outpouring of mutual aid, wasn't there, around the COVID-19 response, and we ignore that at our peril, don't we? Those assets that are in communities and support people. I think that came through very true. And also the point that partnership working isn't the same as co-production. Sometimes the word co-production is hijacked to mean partnership working with other organisations, but what we're talking about here is working with people with lived experience to shape a new future, I think is the phrase that John and Philip were using earlier. So I'll come over to you now, Lindsay. Now people have had a chance to put the questions in the chat. What's coming through?
Well, we've had so much positive messages. There's a lot of love for John and Philippa, just saying that it's been wonderful, inspirational. Thank you for taking them on your journey. One of the theme that's kept coming through is that you can't do everything yourself. And Hassan has said that's such a simple yet powerful lesson in life. I just wonder if there's anything else that you could adapt on that, because that is a theme that's really coming through, just that you can't take everything on your own shoulders. John,
do you want to pick up on that one?
Yeah, I mean, well, that's exactly what co-production is about. I mean, that's such a key concept now, and it is the way forward. I mean, I think Disabled People's Movement came up with two big ideas. Well, three really. One was, first of all, it was the social model of disability. In other words, addressing the kind of structural barriers of society, the very things that stopped us being like anybody else, the environmental barriers and so on. And then independent living, which is us breaking loose and creating our own lives. And then beyond that, the fight for our civil rights, for our, to have rights just like anybody else. And so we had to really work with co-production. I think that is the way forward. We can't do everything ourselves, and we really do. Well, it's what keeps us going as well, because sometimes it's been a 40-year journey for me, and somehow I haven't lost the impetus. Every now and again things dip, but by working in co-production with others, with professionals, and with your fellow peers, it really supports you, and we must develop it more. And as you say, Catherine, we have to be careful of people who use it in vain, who say they're using co-production, but they're not. And so that's what we need to watch out for in the future.
Thank you. Christy, can we come to you? Are you picking up any questions there?
Yeah. So I think the key question people are asking John and Philippa, both of you, is how did you stay so tenacious? How did you keep going when times got tough?
Could I perhaps start off there? I think what made me so tenacious was, firstly, of course, the issues that John has already raised, the fact that I wanted my son to be respected, to have the rights of everybody else living in the community. But secondly, I realized we couldn't achieve that without a different approach to the people whom I needed to support him. And I've been privileged to be doing some work in the Ukraine, very, very different to the United Kingdom, but actually starting a sort of parents network, a parents movement around early support. And one of the first things that I did out there was to suggest that those parents who were passionate about independent living rights of disabled people, they might do what those of us working in the UK had done decades before, that we actually together formulated, if you like, a mission statement about what we wanted for the children and how we thought it might be achieved. But then we went back to the professionals and government officials whom the Ukrainian parents thought were blocking everything. And we sat down, three of us in a safe session and said, what are your thoughts? What do you actually want to achieve for the children that you're working with? And actually, what those professionals and government officials wanted was exactly the same, but they were frightened. They'd worked within traditional boundaries. They didn't know what they could share. They felt that they were somehow reneging on their responsibility. But then we were able to facilitate some joint discussions and get a real sense that actually there was a shared vision. But we had to recognize that there were different obstacles in the way. So I really think having a proper discourse, a proper series of conversations, ensuring mutual respect and recognition are absolutely vital. But we have to ensure that disabled people, families of disabled children, that other people in the community who might need care and support are given an equal place at that table and supported they need it to be active and informed participants. Because my son knows much better than I do about what he needs for an ordinary life, but he needs me to help him to navigate the way that he has to go along to get it.
Thank you, Philippa. And I can't help but do this, I'm afraid. You talked about having a place at the table, and I think people would benefit so much from hearing your story about Margaret Thatcher. We've just got a couple of minutes, but I think it would be a fabulous place to end if you wouldn't mind sharing that.
We were fighting in the 1980s for the rights of disabled children to have the same rights as other children, to actually have a say in their own assessments and decision making. And it was a huge transition from what was normally expected. Parliament was not marvellously supportive of this, apart from a few advocates like Virginia Bottomley. But in the end, because we had the Children Act, and then we had a tranche of Education Acts that would transform the landscape for disabled children, we pushed. And we pushed as a consortium through the Council for Disabled Children. And I got invited to tea with Margaret Thatcher. This was the last chance to get this amendment into the Act. And she was a terrifying person to meet. You felt that you were under artillery fire, but that was all right. I and Professor Philip Graham, a very eminent child psychiatrist, went with me, answered all her questions. And at 3 o'clock, the Big Ben struck. We thought, it's over. We've lost. And we leapt to our feet. We'd been told we must get out at 3 o'clock. The Prime Minister was very busy and had to go back to the House. She bellowed at us, sit down. I haven't finished yet. We had another half hour with her private secretaries trembling. And at the end, she said, all right. She said, how can one group of children not have the same rights as another? I support the amendment. And she then said to me, I don't know any disabled children. I've never met any. Can you bring a group for tea with me next week? And we had a wonderful tea party. And I know that for some people, Margaret Thatcher is not a popular figure, but I have always warned to her for actually listening on that occasion, actually putting disabled children on an equal footing, but furthermore recognizing that she didn't know much about disabled children. So why not actually meet them? And I have to say that the disabled children and young people loved her. And they said afterwards, she really did listen. And they went away, I think, feeling that their voice had been heard. And I suppose I only tell that story, not because I'm special. I happened to be the voice of a large group of families who wanted things to be different. But actually, by pushing, by being willing to share open and honestly, and by opening the doors to the lived experience of the families and children, we made that difference.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Philippa. Thank you. Thank you to both of you, Philippa and John. We've got lots of other amazing comments and many questions that I'm afraid we just can't answer now. But what we are going to do is capture everything that's come through in the chat box. We'll take a look at it, analyse it after today, and we will get back to you with as much information as we can in response to the things that you're posting. But please do keep posting, because it's great for us to feel that we're all in this together. Thank you, Philippa, and thank you, John.
Just one final comment. Just remember, nothing about us without us. That's the important message.
Thank you, John. Thank you. Okay, right. Now we're going to move into a different section of this this morning's session. So leadership development is all about you, and so it's really important that you now get the opportunity together to have a think about what you've heard, what it means to you, and actually really now what you would like to do, because hopefully you're feeling energized and excited about all the possibilities. And so it's a chance to think about what those possibilities and options are for you together in your groups. So in a moment, not yet, we're going to be putting you into breakout rooms. That will be done automatically. You don't need to do anything. And we're going to suggest that you think about these 2 questions. So these 2 questions will be posted into the chat box for you in your breakout rooms. So the first question is, what have you heard today that inspires you to lead change in personalised care? So we can see from the chat that many of you seem to be inspired. What is it specifically that has inspired you to lead change? And what more would you like to explore or learn about your own leadership qualities through participating in this programme? So I'm just so struck by the story of the elephants. And so, you know, what more would you like to explore and learn throughout today and through the rest of the programme? And you can be as vague or as specific as you want to be. Let the conversations flow. So what we will do is return you back here automatically at 11:15. You're going to have, some of you will have some of our tutors in with you. We're going to sort of be dotted about the place. Now, I did say to you at the beginning, and I did ask your permission to please bear with us when it comes to tech. So Rosie, I'm now going to hand over to you put it in your safe hands to put people into the breakout rooms and to make sure that they have these questions in the chat box, please. Thank you.
Okay, it looks like everyone's back.
Fantastic.
Thank
Over
you
to
so much.
Christy.
Thank you, Rosie. So we think we've got everybody back, do we?
Hi, Dominic.
Well,
Hi.
welcome back, everyone, and thank you for sticking with us and going through the tech processes with us. Good to have you back. So what we're going to do now is invite you just to tell us in the chat box your thoughts, reflections, feedback about that conversation. So it'd be really good to hear from you, particularly something that's inspired you and something that you would like to explore more through this program. So if you could pop some things in the chat box, let's see what we come up with, and then chat facilitators, I'm going to be coming over to you to see what we've got.
I'm just going to quickly mute everyone, so facilitators, be ready to unmute yourselves again.
Can you hear me? Yes, you can hear me. Lindsay, can I come over to you? What have we got coming through in the chat box?
Quite a strong theme that's coming through is that people are really enjoying being with like-minded people, different backgrounds, different experience, but kind of singing from the same hymn sheet. That's coming through, and also the importance of co-production. You know, it's so important in this work. So yeah, they're like very strong themes that are coming through. And again, people are mentioning the elephant that Philip alluded to, and finding common goals as well. I guess it's it's like finding common goals and also finding your tribe, again, finding like-minded people, and empowering one another.
Yeah, absolutely. And just the opportunity, I can see that people are saying, you know, it's just great to have a conversation, which is, you know, really powerful. Okay, Julie, is there anything else that you can pick out from the chat box there that you think is worth sharing?
Yeah, I think people have been interested, have showed an interest in the difference between how statutory and voluntary organisations might operate, and just the real importance of listening and valuing people. You know, so that sort of sense of surely, you know, it can't be down to the individual person to drive the policy, and which way does the driver come from?
Yeah, interesting. Great. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm just going to pose to you all now an additional question, because I think sometimes we get stuck. We get stuck because sometimes we just see boundaries and obstacles. And as Catherine said, you know, a lot of that comes from finance. So how about if you knew you couldn't fail, what would you do? If you knew you couldn't fail, what would you do? So let's get some conversation going in the chat box. This is an opportunity to really open your mind and give yourself some space to be creative. Oh, wow. The first thing I've seen there is absolutely everything. I mean, you know, give yourself a break, Andy. You need to perhaps perhaps be kind to yourself and be a bit specific. But hey, if you can do absolutely everything, my friend, then you do that. Be braver, be bold, keep trying in the right direction. Someone else said I would do it all. Change people's practice totally. Interesting. I thought that said locally. It says totally, but perhaps it could be locally as well. Somebody's saying there they would create a family charity, but the chat's gone, so I can't see who that was, but how wonderful. So tell people to stop and think. I mean, that is just so powerful. We go full steam ahead, don't we? And we do things we've always done because we've always done them. But sometimes just having some headspace to stop and think is the biggest gift we can give ourselves and each other. What else have we got? We've got a lot of be brave. Julie, Lindsay, anyone else see anything that's striking from that?
Listening to each other is so important. Taking risks, again, tying into like be bold, be brave, save some lives. Love that.
Yeah, I find it be kind and start again. So I thought a theme of let's embrace the change and make this work for people in the future. Talk to each other.
Yeah.
Something that came through for me there about the value of unpaid work and working with healthcare professionals, particularly I'm a healthcare professional, so this resonates with me, to value unpaid work and the community services that can provide. And I think that's really important. And signposting came out in our group of how do we make people more aware of what services are available and can really support patients in a holistic way.
Yeah, fabulous. Thank you, Hannah. Really helpful. And somebody's said there, and I'm going to leave it at this, be at the forefront of a huge culture change. Catherine, I'm going to hand over to you now.
Thank you so much. So brilliant that so many of you have had such generative conversations, deep conversations. I'm deeply, you know, kind of honoured to be part of your leadership journey. I'm sure our paths will cross and continue to cross. So what's to come? I said a little bit about this at the beginning. We've got another live event next week, 3rd of December, 12 till 1:30, so slightly mixing up the time here. It will be a similar format to this time. We will have some input, but the main part of our leadership programme is trying to give you a chance to listen and learn and reflect and learn and share with each other. So there will be use of breakout rooms again. Again, we just have to bear with each other's tech. I think it worked okay for most people, but you know, we haven't got magic wands, unfortunately. We'll follow up the session with some reading materials. There's so much in the chat. We're going to take a while to analyse that and maybe sort of bring some themes out. So don't feel if we haven't read out your specific comment, you haven't been heard. It's just obviously impossible. We started off with over 500 people to mention everything that you've said, but it's heard in our shared community in this space, in this virtual space that we've created. And so we will be sharing that back with you. Then we've got additional online resources coming soon. It's very exciting. So we'll share details with you about that. And like I said, the action learning sets, which will be kicking off in the new year, a chance to apply for those in December, so in the next few weeks. So keep an eye out for that. But really, I just want to thank everybody for all your participation today. It's been great. We've got a link which Rosie's going to put in the chat to an evaluation, which is, you know, at this point a collective groan, isn't it? Oh no, you know, you want us to evaluate it, but really it's so that we can give you what you need. If you tell us that you want more of or less of something, we'll try to accommodate that. So please do let us know how we did and you know, what was helpful for you. We've asked for your name and address in the evaluation, or your organisation, or where you're from, in fact, but that, and also your consent to, if we can share materials, because part of what we're trying to do is get this sense of connection, shared purpose together, and actually it helps to hear from each other. So if we can share your comments either through our online platform or on our social media, some of the stuff that you're telling us, that helps, but obviously that's optional, you don't have to consent to that. So just some final words from me, really. I just think every time I hear Philippa and John speak, I learn something new, and it really is, you know, an honour to be part of their journey. I sort of feel I'm hanging on the coattails, but the more the merrier in this, right? The more change we can make together. The echoes and roots, you know, of what they've achieved find their way into personalised care today. So when we're talking about the technical aspects of making change in the way we provide care, the way we commission care, somebody said earlier, it's quite easy to be caught in the process, caught in the content, in the technical day-to-day difficulties we have. But I suppose the thing to leave you with is it isn't just, personalised care isn't just another policy that was written, you know, in Whitehall, that was destined to sit on a shelf, or even a set of targets, even though there are some targets for England around personalised care and social prescribing, etc. This is about a real shift in the NHS, in social care and beyond, to enable people to have agency in their own lives. It's about a shift in power, it's about collaboration and co-production, and it links us all together, organisations, people, staff and communities, to ask what matters to you and what part can we as leaders play in making all of those things that really matter to people a reality. So thank you very much. It's been great, and we will see you hopefully next week. Bye everybody.